Welcome to Esoteric Thoughts. Today I have the great pleasure in welcoming Gabriel from the Slick Dissidents channel to Esoteric Thoughts. How are you doing, Gabriel?
I'm doing wonderful, Esoteric. Thank you again for having me, my friend.
My
It's a joy to
pleasure.
be here.
So today I'm actually quite excited by what you're going to show to us. Something I've never seen before, something I've never heard of before until you mentioned it. And this is the Marvel Avengers Tarot Project. Yep, great.
That-
Take
yeah.
us through it.
So it was about a year and a half ago, I began to realize that the tarot cards were highly significant and very important in the symbolic archetypes of the collective mind. I've been studying Carl Jung and appreciating how much we were connected in his lifetime. And that was before cinema and film had taken off and really launched onto the new levels of uh, of of collective experience. And so I also had learned that Carl Jung was employed by Allen Dulles during the Second World War. And I believe Allen Dulles has a quote about Carl Jung that sounds something along the lines of, the world will never fully know the extent of the impact that Carl Jung had on the defeating of the Nazis. And um, and I always love little tidbits and mysteries about history like that because it leaves you, it leaves a lot of room for speculation. And I've always considered that maybe they've taken Carl Jung's work and implemented it into film. And over my lifetime, I've come to realize that most of the action films that we're given are actually recruiting uh, matrices. When the goosebumps hit and and you get the music really inspires you. Oftentimes, you'll see an American flag, you know, inadvertently flashed into the background to drum up that patriotic sense of connectiveness. And so that's I find that um, concerning and worth my time to try and disseminate what the system of the military industrial complex's influence on Hollywood and film, what it really entails. And so I started with Marvel because one day it occurred to me that there were 22 primary Marvel movies when they finished their arc, coming all the way to the end game. Um, and that was when I essentially just got a notebook and I wrote down all of the movies and I wrote down all of the major arcana tarot cards. And I was able to draw very powerful correspondences from one film to one card 22 times. And it was very gratifying to do that. And that set me on my path. And I realized I wasn't going to see anybody else out in the uh, conspiritual realm taking it to that level, and that it was on me to kind of bring this forward. So that's when I got off my butt, started my goofy little YouTube channel. I like to refer to it as a shared learning experience because I make a lot of mistakes, and I always like to tell people, don't trust me, don't think that I am the end all be all of anything. Test everything I say, improve my words on your own.
Shall we go through the slides?
I would love to, yes. So this is a master map of the path that we're going to take today. And some would say that this is the hero's journey. And it's a beautiful, beautiful relationship that someone can develop uh, and gain affluence over. And in my work of connecting the 22 films with these 22 cards, I actually have a very powerful map in my mind of how these cards relate to the sky map and the zodiac and the functions of the heavens. So a lot of people will agree with probably with at least 12 of these stations, because in your standard tarot booklet, it will give strong correspondences from the card to a zodiac constellation, a major zodiac constellation. And then the remaining 10 cards are they're not given to you in your standard tarot manual. I have inferred them by the fact that they're in numerological sequence. We're actually flowing around this arc 2 times. And so there might be people in the tarot community or in the astrological community who might uh, prefer to rearrange certain cards in a different order. Like, for example, I have heard people who want to put the Tower card closer to Libra, and I do like that idea. But I've through this journey for myself, I have become very affluent in the constellations as well. I have a very strong star map in my mind as well. So I can, if I needed to, I could also correspond these ingredients and the spirit of each card with attributes from the constellations of the heavens. And so what we have is not only a zodiac, but we also have a constellation map of 22 constellations out of the sky as they roll through the year. And so, yeah, some of the dynamics, such as the solstices and the equinoxes, they are built in and expressed beautifully through the tarot cards. And another point I'll make is I'm generally using, as a beginner, I started with the Rider-Waite deck primarily. And I am very aware that there are many different tarot decks with many different images, and some of them have a stark contrast to this deck in particular. But as a beginner, I think this is a really good foundation for that. I would recommend other people to start with. If anybody's looking to get into tarot, I would say the Rider-Waite is just a good foundation, because those other decks become more advanced, more nuanced, and the difference between different decks is very important. And there's a lot to learn as you grow. But I just think this is a great place to start at. And so as we're going to roll through the cinematic films, we're not going by the order of the films. We're not going by the order of the chronology in the Marvel Universe. We're going in the order of this map right here. And we will start in a moment. We'll start with the Fool card, who is in the center. And then we will step out from the Fool card. We will step into the Magi card, who is in the sign of Sagittarius. And then we will roll across to the High Priestess in the Capricorn. Then we will jump to the Empress and the Emperor there at the equinox line, and we'll roll on to the Hierophant, then to the Lovers, then to the Chariot card, and then in August we'll be with the Strength card, the Hermit card, then it goes to the Wheel of Fortune card, and then the Judgment card is the first time we're on a double layer, because we've crossed through the fall equinox as of the Wheel of Fortune card in Libra. We will now start to establish a second layer, and that the Justice card is on the outer rim here. So we're creating the second arc as we layer over the first pass. And so you'll have the Justice card in Libra, then we'll be to Scorpio, where the Death card and the Hanged Man card will roll out, and then we'll move into Temperance, and then to the Devil card in Capricorn. Then the Star card and the Tower card are we are also following numerologically. Like the Devil card is number 15, and then the Tower card is 16, and the Star card is 17. So anybody who knows their numbers and their cards, they will know that I'm filling in a blank here that we missed on the first pass. And there's a good reason for that. It has to do with the fact that in the depth of winter, the night sky is longer. It takes more time on the heavenly stage. And so that's the reason why in Aquarius, and also we're in the age of Aquarius, there's kind of a blip in the flow of the numbers there. And then from the star card, we go to the moon card in Pisces. The sun card is in Aries, and then the judgment card is in Taurus, and we will end in Gemini with the world card, card number 21. And so anybody who knows their tarot, you can, and even if you don't know your tarot, this is a good screen cap to take a shot and just use this as a reference point. If anybody would like to, they're totally welcome to. I just snatched this off the internet and did some of my own embellishments to kind of lay the ground for where our hero's journey is going to take us today. And this is a fun little graphic that I made. I believe that not only do these archetypes exist in the realm of fiction, I believe that the creators of the Marvel Universe have infused actual historical characters, and they've imbued the spirit of these actual personas from our history that got us where we are. So this is the spirit of our elders. This is the spirit of the ancestors. These are the people who have influenced culture in a major way. And along my journey, I have come to see the spirit of these personas from history brought back to life, reanimated on the screen. And so this is me putting a creative spin on what I interpret as part of what gives a framework of truth behind the fiction that we're handed in a lot of when a lot of us are young. So to be clear, I believe that these historical characters were fused into the comics when the comic writers were making them. Not so much in this modern day cinematic aspect. I think this goes back to the original writers were reanimating heroes from actual history and giving them a fictional immortality to keep them alive forever. So Captain America is very much like JFK, as he's walking around with a target all the time, like almost prophesizing his own demise. I like that Friedrich Nietzsche is Thor, because Nietzsche he called his philosophy philosophizing with a hammer, and so the symbol of the hammer is a Nietzschean icon. And so he also talked about glorifying a blonde beast. And Thor, the character, he has this apotheosis moment where he like goes from like a couch potato in a snap of a finger, and he's like ready to do battle, and he's got his hair is all freaking beautiful in the wind, and he's got his hammer. So it's very Nietzschean. The path of that particular hero is like a Nietzschean path. And so I'm not going to go through all of these, but some of them are a real hard hitter. Like I love Ant-Man as Einstein. And I like to think of Howard Hughes as the Incredible Hulk. That really tickles my fancy, because the Incredible Hulk goes through a couple phases in his life where he becomes a recluse. He leaves society and refuses to come out. At one point, he's literally living in a tower on another planet where he's living large. He's quite satisfied with his life, but he doesn't want to come back to the calling of the Avenger team. So there is a spirit of these historical characters, I believe, imbued into these fictional characters that is worth considering. And another one is, Aleister Crowley as Doctor Strange. That would probably ruffle a lot of feathers with a lot of people who like Doctor Strange. But I've done a lot of deep analysis on the Doctor Strange series, and I think he is best relating Aleister Crowley. I would say quite a few other characters, but Aleister Crowley is a great example of one. And then the another one I can't go without saying is that Carl Jung, I am so convinced, is Spider-Man, because Carl Jung is, for one, Spider-Man is the youngest Avenger. Carl Jung, he invented the term the collective web, or the web of collective consciousness. He also had his genius, his spirit guide was named Philemon. And so in one of Carl Jung's quotes, he says, "I am the avenger of Philemon." And that is, when I saw that quote, it convinced me quite compellingly that I was onto something, to think that Spider-Man is very much like a Carl Jung archetype in and of himself. So that's what this little graphic is all about. So this one is this is a recent development in my research. I found this correspondence between FDR and I think it's Churchill. FDR and Churchill were having a secret meeting, and the name of their secret meeting was symbol I am, was the name of this. You could call it an operation that they were meeting together in I believe in Madagascar, might have been Morocco. I always get those switched. I think it was in wherever Casablanca is. I think that's Madagascar. It's in the fine print here. But the name of their secret meeting where they came together and they gave each other, this correspondence is them going back and forth, assigning code names to one another. So one of their code names was like Don Quixote, and the other one was like Sancho Pancho. So they have these kind of cute names that they give each other in these elite levels. But this particular document has been released and is available to the public now. It was top secret at the time, but now we can actually see a little glimpse into the way their mind works. And it really hit me that the name of their secret of secret missions was symbol I am, because I get a lot of gratification out of reading symbols and finding correspondences in symbols. And I'll be darned if the most goosebump enriched moment of the entire Marvel comic film was in the moment when Captain America makes this glorious comeback, and he says, "Avengers, assemble." And then that's when they go into battle, and the goosebumps are just rippling through the crowd, and we all attach to that, and that is, we emotionally charge. The characters are charging into battle, and we are charging our emotions into our attachment to these archetypes as they are animated on the screen in front of us. So I just find it so profound that that a symbol can be a power implement, and we can all share it in a collective fashion. And that can be that's something we should maybe all think about, and just consider the power of it all. And then on the left hand of the screen here is MCU, that stands for Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in the septenary gematria, C's and K's are the same value. I mean, they're also the same sound. They're both a K, a hard K. But when you use the gematria, it just reinforces the fact that MCU, Marvel Comic Universe, is harmonically perfect with MK Ultra. And this lends to my idea that the entire all of the film industry is just doing the bidding of the recruiting of soldiers, you know, and encouraging people to join into that group think and march into battle, you know, because that's where you got your goosebumps when you were a kid. Surely you're going to get goosebumps if you go conscript into the war machine, you know, and that I don't think that's really how things work. So I just wanted to point out that, yeah, MCU and MKU are in fact one and the same, and they all add up to a 10, which has a powerful relationship to the Sephiroth here and the 10 spheres of the Tree of Life. So, yeah, we can roll out. Yeah, all right. So we're starting our hero's journey here, where we are uh, bringing to light what was hidden underneath this character, this Captain America character, who is the Fool card. And now the Fool card is card symbol 0. It's not a number. 0 is not a number, it is a symbol. And that's why that was his line. Avengers, a symbol. And so the Fool card is in the Rider-Waite is depicted walking off of a cliff, oblivious to his whereabouts. He is blissfully ignorant, and he's staring up into the heavens with his animus creature, his little dog, by his heels, and he's not aware that he's about to walk off of this cliff. And so that is actually a key ingredient to Captain America, as in his defining moment, in his Captain America Part 1, he wakes up and realizes that he has been fooled, that he was tricked into believing that he was living in the past. And in fact, he hears a baseball game on the radio, that he was at that baseball game. And the radio is supposed to be a live broadcast, supposed to be real time, but it's not the real time. And he starts to question his reality. And then he breaks out. He literally like has to jump through walls. He's jumping off of cars. He's doing a whole lot of jumping, and it's one of his main things is jumping into action. Um, so he's wearing a jump suit. So, and they talk about his jump suit. So yeah, all of these are focused on, and of all the characters, they are the most perfect fit for Captain America. So I show this image of him carrying that punching bag over his shoulder, very much like the Fool card, has his little bag over his shoulder, all of his tools that he's going to need on his journey. Also, Captain America's shield is very symbolically correspondent to the flat Earth model. So I put a little image of what some people think of the flat Earth model, and put it next to a shield, so you can consider if that looks similar enough to you, because it sure does to me. But that really hits a note because of the jumping off of the edge. The whole thing about the flat Earth is, from, you know, historically speaking, I'm totally being neutral here I'm globe shape agnostic. I'm not trying to propagandize or tilt anybody's opinion. But if you go off the edge of the Earth, you are like the Fool card. You fall off the edge of the cliff. So I find it really powerful that his shield is like a flat Earth model. And then also he knocks himself out later in the series, and then he makes a joke about his own ass, and so he's the butt of his own joke, and that's Uranus is correspondent with the Fool card here too. So now one thing I'll just say this before we go too much further. Most of the trilogies, I've grouped them all together into one image. So you will notice that, you know, Captain America has a 1, 2, and a 3, but I'm just going to fit them all together into this Fool card for the sake of expedience on the program here tonight. One more thing that I should point out is, in the moment when he realized, this is called future shock. A lot of us still deal with future shock when we find out that, they're splicing genetics, and that they have uh, robot dogs on the battlefield now, and it's like we're living in the future that we never thought we would see, but here he's going through that in his moment of revelation. uh, and so on one shoulder you'll notice a corona bottle, and on the other shoulder you'll notice a coronavirus. And a lot of people have done analysis on this particular scene right here, where there's a corona bottle on one side and a coronavirus on the other. Well, if you look even closer down in the corner underneath that coronavirus, a little more to the right, there is a mask from the Phantom of the Opera. So this, in his moment of revelation, as he's realizing that the future is upon him, they are giving the audience revelation as well. And so I just find it super fascinating how many of the backdrop ingredients correspond so perfectly with the tarot card, but also with the situation of the lockdowns that we just went through. It's very mystically, I want to say mystically hyperbolic. It's like, it goes from just being an innocent tarot card to just a film, the things of children, and then you find out that it amplifies through the masses, and the spell seems to have worked. So I think that's all. There's a lot more going on in there. There's actually a bank, HCBI Bank, HSBC Bank. That bank above his head is actually, that's the Dutch India Trading Company. And that is, there's a lot packed into that little sigil as well. So, but I'll just stop there because I could go all day. Nice. So we've come out of the center of that zodiac with the Fool card. We've embarked onto the journey, and now we move on to the Magi card. We are officially dealing with a number now. We're no longer a symbol. We're now in the realm of numbers, in the domain of Ma'at. And so card number 1 is the Magi card. And it is beyond a doubt. I mean, this is probably one of the most obvious of all of the correspondences, but this is Dr. Strange. Now, one thing that I find fascinating is how frequently Dr. Strange is depicted with a table full of his implements and his tools. And in fact, the very opening scene of Dr. Strange number 1, the very first one, he is on the operating table, and he has a table full of implements and tools. And so that is a perfect initiation into the fact that we are dealing with the Magi card here. And he goes on his journey. He actually goes through a fall. His car goes off a cliff. So he has a bit of a Fool card moment. And that's the thing. The Fool card is universal throughout. You will find that the Fool card will apply to the other characters in their own little defining moments. But that's why he's in the center. So Dr. Strange goes through a fall and then breaks his hands and goes off to find his spiritual path. And then even in his spiritual path, in Karmataj, where he learns to master magic, he is still implementing the table in his defining moments. So this is the moment when he, A is for apple. He's learning the ABCs of magic, and he learns to control forward and reverse time with his little magical medallion there. So yeah, the table is key, a level playing field. He's leveling the playing field to become a master of magics, and that's actually that actually applies in the realm of law, also level playing field. So that had me pretty convinced I was onto something as well. So we've moved from Sagittarius, is where the Magi card is on the map. We've moved across the winter solstice, and we are in Capricorn at this point. And Capricorn has 2 cards But the first card on the inner journey, on the inner ring, on the first pass, is going to be the High Priestess card. And the High Priestess card has quite a few really beautiful names. She's also called the Hierophantess, and also the Pope-ess. So she's like a female pope. And I just think that's a beautiful thing to know, that in some cultures, somewhere along the lines, they've had something like a female pope. But this character, this card in particular, is a real powerful fit for Captain Marvel here. And you can see the cross on her chest is very correspondent to the costume that Captain Marvel wears when she's in her superhero mode. The Hierophantess, or the High Priestess, she will often have two pillars framing her. She'll be framed by Jachin and Boaz. And that happens many times in the iconography of Captain Marvel here. So you can see her in this doorway where one door has a dim light and the other, or the one window is dim, the other window is brighter. And that's the moment where she's actually puts on her costume for the first time. So it's a defining moment where she comes out dressed up like that. And I always have to point out, kind of like I was saying, that they also imbue actual historical personas into these heroes. I just have to point out that Jack Parsons, his birth name was Marvel. He was Marvel Parsons. And so Jack Parsons is immortalized through this character in a fascinating way. And that's going to get, some people are going to get all excited. That's going to make their day. They're going to get all warm and fuzzy. And some people, they're going to get a little, their blood pressure might rise. But that's the Jachin and the Boaz of it all. You know, that's the duality that she's sitting on the threshold of. So I just thought I'd reveal that. So from the Capricorn station, remember I mentioned we're going to skip Aquarius because that's the depths, that's the deep of the winter, where the darkness of the sky has ultimate dominion. So we're going to skip over Aquarius and we're going to step into Pisces. We're kind of crossing an abyss, you could say, and we're going to skip into Pisces, which is the Empress card, and she sits on one side of the spring equinox, and her counterpart, her partner, is the Emperor, and he's up in Aries, the next station up on the zodiac. And so these two characters, the Emperor and the Empress, they are literally holding the gates or holding the balance of the spring equinox, as she is below in the water element of Pisces, and he is above in the fire element of Aries. And what really tickles my fancy is how that is also elementally an expression of the planet Venus, which is closer to the center of the solar system. She is inside, and Mars is outside, external from us, on the other side of Earth. And so to say that the female is within, on the inside and the private side, is actually astrologically impeccable. And the male, the Mars, the one who goes out and does war, does battle, he's out in the public side, external. And so it's both astrologically impeccable. It's also physiologically precise to say that the female is, her anatomy goes inward and the male anatomy goes outward. And so I just find that quite fascinating. And then this is encapsulated within Guardians of the Galaxy. And Gamora and Star-Lord are basically an embodiment of these two cards. And I just find that beautiful, that there's a bit of an alchemical wedding that is happening here at the equinox line between the Empress and the Emperor. And even Star-Lord's father, who is some kind of deified god planet man, he dresses up like the Emperor card, to the extent that it's really blatantly obvious to me. And he's even got ridiculously fabulous hair that they make fun of in the movie. And so that's actually integral to the Emperor card. He has his laurels. He has his distinguishing feature on his head that crowns him. And one thing that a lot of people were kind of like turned off by the goofiness of the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is the scene where Star-Lord is playing catch with his father. They're throwing this ball back and forth. Well, now we might actually be looking at the fundamental context of what that was all about, because this Emperor card has an orb in his hand. And so the throwing of the ball back and forth is very likely encoding this dominion over the sphere that the Emperor has. But I'm going to go way out on a limb, and I'm going to say I think that was encoding the fact that the moon was handed off from Mars. And I've always gotten a lot of joy and confirmation out of the theory that the moon once was orbiting the planet Mars, and it's been passed down to us like a ball being handed from a father to a son. I think that's really what they were encoding when they had that really corny scene where they were playing catch with the ball. And so, yeah, I just wanted to maybe give context to what seemed hokey at the time might have been deeply profound. I find often that things that seem silliness or even profane is actually hiding something deeper. And if you can stare at it long enough, you might be able to penetrate really profound secrets underneath. Nice. So we're moving out of Aries and into Taurus, an earth element. And at this stage, I'm going to do a bit of a jump around just for the sake of time. I'm going to encapsulate 3 different cards all at once with the Iron Man series because it's a trilogy. And so we're going to kind of break out a sequence ever so slightly just for the sake of expedience. But the Hierophant card is in Taurus, and the Chariot card skips over Gemini and lands in Cancer. And then the Hierophant card skips over Leo and lands in the Virgo station. So we're actually doing an every other, we're hopping every other zodiacal position. But it is in the order that the Iron Man comes out. So Iron Man 1 was much like the Hierophant, where he has his he goes through, he makes his first outfit in a cave. He's locked in a cave as a prisoner. He makes his first battle suit, and then he comes out, and when he walks out, his name is Tony Stark. But when he walks out with his very first battle armor, he's walking out of a stony ark. He's walking through an archway of initiation when he comes out of the cave and lights everybody up with his flamethrower there. That's like his apotheosis moment. So that is very interesting because Taurus is an earth element. So it is very appropriate that that would be his defining scene. And then down below, this is just one of many scenes through the series where his suit is being worked on, and his buddy there is like, modulating his battle armor. And that's very interesting because his friend is kneeling below him. And in the Hierophant card, there are 2 acolytes at the foot of the Hierophant kneeling beneath the Hierophant. And even the fact that his hands are like engaged in those two columns just reminds me very much of the Hierophant as well. And so then Iron Man 2, in that one, I think there's a battleship in the sky that he needs to use his throttle to get the propellers moving. So he becomes the engine of a grand sky chariot and gets the motor running. So I think it's Iron Man 2 where he is embodying the chariot card. He also has other forms of body armor that he utilizes, that he has command over. So this chariot card has these chimeras or these sphinxes below the chariot character. very much like Tony Stark in that one, is has command over his little automatons. And then the Hierophant is it's just interesting that even on the poster itself, it looks so much like this classic hero. I'm sorry, this hermit, this classic hermit image, because a lot of people know that from Stairway to Heaven. That was on the cover, the album cover of Stairway to Heaven. But you can see that Iron Man 3, he's holding his hand forward and illuminating the masses with the dark sky behind him. Pretty compelling to me that's a three-way fit right there. So the next one will roll from, remember we were in Taurus when we started the Iron Man arc, so now we're going into Gemini. And the Gemini tarot card on this first pass through is going to be the Lover's card. And this is really interesting to me, as the Ant-Man and Wasp are the only male-female pair. They work as a team. And so very similarly, this Lover's card is the one card of the tarot of the major arcana that is a male and a female paired up in even touching hands. They're always embracing in one way or another. And there's even this angel in the background with the wings, much like Wasp. When she goes into her super suit, she's got the wings flying around. So Ant-Man and Wasp was a sequel. It was a two-parter. And originally, it starts off with just Ant-Man alone in his solo status. And that would be that movie, that film, the standalone film of Ant-Man, is the Tower card, because he's able to maximize and reduce himself. He builds up and he breaks himself back down. And that's what the Tower card is all about. It's about building something with the anticipation that eventually it will go through a fall. So the Tower card is not in Gemini. The Tower card we skipped earlier when we went through over Aquarius. So again, we're kind of breaking order for the sake of expedience. So Ant-Man standalone was the Tower card. And there's a lot to the Tower card. Spiritually speaking, it represents fall guys, people who are going to take the blame, who are going to do the dirty work. And I find that really fascinating, because Ant-Man, the character, is actually a criminal. He's trying to get his life back together. He's trying to rebuild himself up and reintegrate into society. And he does become a fall guy in a lot of ways. And there's so much meaning and so much metaphor, deep and profound metaphor underneath what I'm saying on the surface here. There is a lot more to the fact that Ant-Man becomes a fall guy. He's like he's a deadbeat dad. He's got this kind of sketch relationship with his child. It's and all of the things phallic, or as Tazarian likes to say, the iffy phallic implications of it are deep and profound. I could go for days talking about it, so I'll shut up about about that. But so yeah, we're going to go from the Gemini, and we're going to skip Cancer because we already did that with Iron Man, and now here we are with the Incredible Hulk. And this one is really fascinating to me. So we're in August. We skipped Cancer or July, and we're in August. And August is the time of year on the Analima where the sun starts to go through its descent, and the descent is actually picking up speed. You'll notice in August every year is when you start to get a sense of like, oh, the days are starting to get shorter. It's towards the end of August is when you're like, I can tell the seasons are changing. Well, that's actually the Incredible Hulk's password that they use to modulate his emotions. The words that Romanoff says to him, she says, "The sun's getting low, big fella." And that is the password that allows him to change from this huge, incredible Hulk. He reduces and becomes Bruce Banner and comes back to his his form of a normal man. And so this is absolutely the strength card, where we have a maiden soothing a lion and calming down the beast. And that's a very profound card that is in the station of August. And so I just put, and the maiden has an analema on the card. She has this analema over her head. So I took the liberty of putting a similar, likewise, analema over Romanoff's head, because I'm quite sure this is her card as well. This is the Incredible Hulk and Romanoff's card in the strength position. And now we have skipped over Virgo because we covered that with Iron Man again. And so we are now at the fall equinox. And this is the turning of the year. This is on the zodiac. We're literally turning a corner. The way I lay my zodiac out, I will say this: you will find many ways to arrange the zodiac. And I do mine in a very simplistic fashion, where the equinox is the center parallel, and the solstice is the vertical. You could say that the equinox line is the x-axis, and the solstice is the y-axis. And so we're going through the descending into the winter season. And this film, this particular Captain America was I think this is number 2 of the Captain America series. And this one was called The Winter Soldier. And it really gets me because this is the time of year when we're embarking on a winter sojourn. We're about to dive into the winter seasons. And so things are going to get cold. We're going to go into some dark stuff. The actual subject matter of the film is talking about MK Ultra, talking about mind control, talking about trigger words and phrases that activate the Winter Soldier himself. And it just kind of gets me that he's got that metallic arm that is probably magnetic. And in the dark night of the soul of the collective, a lot of people who took the poke had magnetic arms. And it was very triggering to all of us when we saw people putting magnets on their shoulder where they got poked. And so, to a large degree, I think a lot of people were, I don't know, I don't know how to say it, but like, it didn't make me upset, but it did trigger my my synchronous radar was going off. I'll say it that way. My synchronicity radar was really going off because I knew that it had been presaged in this film in particular. And so the Wheel of Fortune card is card number 10. It is X. It's generally Roman numeral X is the number for this card. And you'll also notice it has the tetramorph, the 4 characters in the 4 corners. Well, on this movie poster, they literally have 4 characters in 4 corners. And there's generally a sphinx in the center. And the sphinx has like a striped headdress. And even the stripes of the headdress match the stripes of Captain America's abdomen there. It's really, really correspondent, like powerfully correspondent. So we'll move from the 10 to the next one will be, yes, we're moving into card number 11, XI in the Roman numeral system. And this one, again, much like Iron Man, I'm going to encapsulate 3 films, 3 cards from around different spots in the zodiac all at once. But we'll just be focusing. We're in Libra now. And the card for Libra is the Justice card, which is the center card on this graphic. But the entire series of Thor, in the whole arc of Thor 1, 2, and 3, are in different places throughout the zodiac. So at this point, it might be helpful if people got the screen cap from the original map that we started on to just kind of see that this is not sequential. We're breaking out of order, but we are going to stay true to the elements of the sky clock as it relates to the card, as it is embodied through the film. So I just wanted to make that footnote so nobody feels confused. Um, so we're in the Justice, we're in Libra, which is the center card here, and in that that is correspondent to Thor number 2, the center card. This is actually in the order of Thor 1 is on the right, Thor 2 is in the middle, and Thor 3 is on the left. Did I say that right? No, I said that wrong. Thor 1 is on the left, Thor 2 is in the middle, and Thor 3 is on the right. Um, and it's kind of funny because if you're on the zodiac, we're actually turning upside down right now. We're going backwards, and so it becomes hard to keep your left and your right sussed out, which is kind of which I'll say this: the word rota is on the Wheel of Fortune, the card we just passed through. It has the word rota on the word, which means to rotate or to turn. And so the fact that things are getting a little confusing, and the left to the right and the right to the left, and there's a style of writing from ancient Middle East called bostraphodon, which is to read as the ox plows, going left to right and then dropping down and going right to left and left to right. And so yeah, it's just interesting that sometimes it does help to be able to think in multiple directions at once, and then you get tongue-tied and twisted like I just did. So the Justice card is Thor number 2, the yep, and then it's the Judgment card that is correspondent to Thor number 1, the beginning of the series. This card on the left-hand side at the top. And what's interesting about the Judgment card is the angel is descending to the mundane realms. These 3 humans are kind of worshiping. It's kind of like a rapture scene. They're coming out of coffins. Well, in Thor number 1, Thor comes down to Earth. He descends to Earth, and he takes on 3 recruits. He takes on his love interest, the intern, and the scientist. And so there is a woman, a child, and a man built into the plot line. And so that is part of that Judgment card from Thor number 1. And then in Thor number 2, his father passes judgment on him in the beginning. You see Odin sitting in the throne with the 2 crows perched on either side of him, very much like this Justice card is sitting in the throne, passing judgment. And then, so from the Justice card in Libra, we're going to move across into Scorpio, where the Death card belongs. And the Death card is Thor number 3, Ragnarok, where his sister Hela comes out of nowhere from forgotten history, and she rides on Asgard, and she infiltrates the city and burns the city, and the king dies, and there's a huge fall. It's actually a real it's kind of a downer. The whole episode ends on a kind of a sad note. Well, that is integral to this Death card. This horse, the horse of death, is literally riding over a fallen king. There is a dead king on the ground. In the background, there's a city that appears to have the sun coming up through, just silhouetting the city and the towers, but that could also be Asgard on fire. It could be the end of that. You could say it's the end of the temple. Might represent Jerusalem going through a fall. And at the end of Ragnarok, all the citizens are put onto a ship, and so it becomes citizenship, and they are lifted off the land, and they are sent off into exile because they no longer have Asgard. And so the community, they become their own city unto themselves on that ship. And so without diverting too much, I will say this: I've done a project with the tarot cards and the amendments of the Constitution, and it is fascinating that it is the 13th tarot card is the Death card, The Ragnarok is correspondent to that, and it was the 13th Amendment that let's see, let me get this right. No, it's the 13th Amendment ended slavery, and then we move forward to the 14th Amendment, and that was the amendment that gave citizenship. And so there is something really neat going on with the tarot cards and the constitutional amendments, where we end slavery. We're on number 13 with this death card, maybe having to do with the Civil War and the fall of the old construct. And then we move forward into card number 14, which is going to be the Civil War scene, or the Civil War Marvel story. And so there's something really fascinating going on with the arc of all that. So moving from death card onto we're still in Scorpio here. So the Hanged Man is the card for Scorpio. The other card, there's two cards at this point. And so this is one of my favorites. It's absolutely Spider-Man. It's really, really kind of plain on the face of it, you know? So the Hanged Man card is upside down. He's inverted. He is much like Odin when Odin is hanging from the tree of Yggdrasil, and he's reflecting on the runes, seeing the information in the reflecting pool at the foot of Yggdrasil. So I just love that because, for one, Carl Jung, he wrote extensively about the spirit of Woden and how he believed that Woden was coming back in the collective of the Germans in his lifetime. He wrote thoroughly about Woden, so it's quite appropriate that the Carl Jung youngest Avenger Philemon character is embodied in this hangman upside down. And then you can see there's one scene in one of his more recent films where he literally has his one leg cocked to the side, just like the hangman card does in that classic number 4 fashion. So after this, we roll out of Scorpio, and now we're back at Sagittarius here. And so we've come full circle from the Magi card, and we're now on the second layer of the Magi card, and this is the Temperance card. And the Temperance card relates to, the Civil War, where this is, I believe, number 3 of the General Avengers films, where they're from the collective groupings. There was Avengers 1, where they come together, where they become. No. Yeah, I'm right. Yep. So in the first one, Avengers 1 is where they come together. Avengers 2 is where Age of Ultron comes up, and those will come up in a minute with some other cards later in the cycle. And then this is the Civil War, where they start to argue over how they handled their debacle with the Age of Ultron, and they start to fight amongst each other. And so this one is kind of interesting. This is the cover art, and you can see that dividing triangle. There's a wedge has been driven between them. And that dividing triangle is embodied in this Temperance card, as she has a triangle on her chest. And we are in Sagittarius with this card. And what's fascinating, some people often speculate as to whether the water is pouring down from the top cup, or are they implying that the water is pouring upwards, going uphill in the opposite direction, which is just an interesting speculation, because the arrow kind of gives you that symbolic implication that maybe the water is flowing unnaturally from one cup to the other. And I've learned that the Sadducees had these really trivial debates about if you take water that is clean in a clean cup and you pour it into a cup that is dirty without touching the two cups, just pouring the clean cupped clean water into a dirty cup, does the remaining cup that was clean to begin with, does it take on the taint from the tainted cup? And there were huge debates amongst the Sadducees about that. And it just really kind of blows my mind because we are in Sagittarius right now. And those with the Sadducees debating about these fine minutiae of law. And so this card is actually encoding the word law. You can't see her feet here, but she has 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the land, and her wings are up in the air. And so we have the land, the air, and the water. That's a LAW. Land, air, and water are all encapsulated in this card. So aspects of law and breaking the law and moral relativity is all kind of embodied into this card in a fascinating way. And that was the spirit of what broke up the Avengers. Is, are we going to stay with being legal? Are we going to join the military industrial complex and abide by something bigger than us? Or are we going to go rogue and call the shots on our own? And it's really fascinating that that was what drove the wedge that split up the team. So really profound stuff. I've learned a lot just by meditating on these little tiny nuggets of truth. All right. So we've crossed through the winter solstice now. We're back in Capricorn. We're in the final month of the year, so to say. And this is going to be the devil card. And I've actually taken, I've kind of, I'm having some fun with this graphic. This is not your standard devil card. I've put a particular character in the position of the enthroned devil here. And you might recognize him. But yes, this is the devil card in Capricorn. And this is the Avengers Infinity War, the first of or you could say the beginning of the end, because the grand finale was a two-part installation. So I've also altered Thanos's face here and put another familiar character in place of his face, who I call Ann Thanos Fauci, because Fauci, sure as heck, he snapped his fingers and the world shut down. It's quite profound how much power was consolidated within his grasp. And I'll also point out that the word gauntlet, the word for gauntlet in Italian, because this is, he's Anthony Fauci, so in Italian, the word for gauntlet is a synonym for monopoly, a monopoly. And so he had a monopoly on power. And it has not been checked. It has not been balanced. He literally snapped his finger and shut down the world. So I think it's quite appropriate that we call him Thanos Fauci. And now we're going out of Capricorn, and we're going to fill in that Aquarius, the one that we skipped in the beginning. And now remember that the Tower card is also in Aquarius on the fundamental map. And now we're going to. This was actually the hardest correspondence for me. This was the last of my when I did this project in the very beginning. This was the last one that I matched and put together. But the more I look at it, the more it does make sense, because the card is generally a woman. That made it a little tricky for me. And the Black Panther is a dude. He's machismo dude. But one of the hints that really kind of locked this into place for me is how the scratch marks that Black Panther makes are squiggly lines. And squiggly lines are the symbol for Aquarius. And so his signature, when he touches something, his signature he leaves behind is basically a claim on the domain of Aquarius. And so that really led me down to confirm it even more, because in the ceremony where he earns the mantle of Black Panther, they will literally turn off these waterfalls and create this sacred grotto for a challenger to have the opportunity to arise and challenge him in hand-to-hand combat, and that is really it's such a beautiful scene. I really love this film. Um, and so oftentimes the star card is depicted in a grotto with fountains of water flowing, um, and she also is she's surrounded by stars. That's another element of many of the star cards, is she'll have a frame or an archway of stars above her, and that's just beautiful because Black Panther, he has these, his little necklace there is very much like the stars above the head of the star card. Um, and one more interesting thing, I chose this image of Chad Aaron Boseman, the actor. I chose this one in particular because he has his helmet in his hands. And this is, I see as a bit of a nod and a wink to John the Baptist, who is often correspondent with the Aquarian pitcher water carrier. And he's got that often, the water carrier has a jug over his shoulder and he's pouring out the water from the jug. Well, some people might say that that's John the Baptist with his decapitated head, pouring the gnosis of his knowledge out onto the people. So I just thought that was worth mentioning, that he's got his helmet off in his hands there. And also the Aquarius is sometimes called the naked man, is another term for the Aquarian constellation. And when he goes through this battle scene, he has to not only strip down, take off his armor, but he literally removes his magical powers. So he becomes unanointed so that he can actually fight without his Black Panther spell. So all of that really fit pretty well for me. Nice. And so here this is going to be a twofer, because we have the first of the Avengers, which was just called Avengers outright. And then part two was called the Age of Ultron. And that was when they started to make some regrettable mistakes over the grand arc of this collective story of the Avengers in it at large. And so I've put this on a Masonic tracing board because the first Avengers is a sun card, which is in Aries. It's on the spring equinox. It's just as we've broken into the beginning of the spring, where the sun gains it gains power and the days start to grow longer. But we've moved out of Pisces down below, where the darkness of the year had more dominion over the skies. And that's really gratifying for me because it was called the AG of Ultron. And AG means silver. Silver is correspondent to the moon. And so the Age of Ultron is down in Pisces underneath the equinox. And the Avengers is the gold. It's like the golden age where they're building up and the sun is gaining, it's defeated the darkness for the year. So yeah, we're going to break over the spring equinox line with these two films, one being the moon card with the Age of Ultron, and sun card is the Avengers, the beginning of their collective endeavors. And I think the next one is going to be a bit of, this might seem like a curveball, but I just wanted to give another depiction of how you will see the sun and the moon cards shown in film. These two cards are not from the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. Some people will recognize these from the Thoth deck, and but you will probably see pretty clearly that film has been using the tarot for a long time. This film came out in 1977, and they were bringing to life this Thoth deck in Star Wars. And so I just wanted to show another example for people so they can kind of see when you see twins, one depicted as like a golden child and another one more like a scapegoat or a darker spirit, you are very likely looking at the archetypes of the sun card and the moon card. And they're, they are in opposition of each other, but they're twins of each other because they're the same size in the heavens. And their energy is being bounced off and eclipsing sometimes when they come together. So I just wanted to give one more example of how cinema, they know about the mechanistic nature of this realm. And it is sometimes depicted as machines or robots because it is like clockwork. We can predict this equinox um, with with a lot of prophetic value, you could say. And in fact, they have used eclipses where the moon and the sun come together and the moon blocks out the sun. They've used that and they propagandized it during war times in the past, much like Apocalypto, where they say we're going to turn off the sun until we kill 100 people. And then, people line up because they really think that they have command over the heavens. So I just wanted to point out that they're still doing that kind of mind control by corresponding characters with the dynamics and the machines, the mechanistic aspects of the sky clock. And then here we are with the grand finale, the very end of the hero's journey, and as well, this is the end game. This was the final battle and the end of the primary Marvel Cinematic Universe story arc, and uh, it is really fascinating how they depict these portals, these archways of initiation for half of the world. And I think it's actually half of the universe that got blipped out in the blip. And so when they all make this comeback, everybody is initiated. Everybody has gone through the dark night of the soul, and it's a full integration celebration, you could say. And so it's almost like a harvesting of any and all the goosebumps that you got all through the whole 22 films. It all culminates in this scene right here. And I just find it very powerful that it relates to this world card with this robed figure stepping out of what appears to be a portal in the sky. Yes. So at this point, I'll just kind of tease out a theory and an idea that I've been working on. And it really has taken things to a new level for me personally. I actually have a lot of researching and a lot of reading so I can prove out this theory. So I'm probably going to be on a bit of a hiatus on on my channel for a little while. I have really found a challenge that is worth my time, and it's worth all the rest of my effort if I can work this system to its to a satisfying degree of completion. Um, I believe that what we just went through with Marvel was the Rider Waite Tarot deck. And that is a good beginner's tarot deck. In this hero's journey that I was honored to share with everybody, brings our awareness into a position of appreciating that the sky clock is sacred and it is imbued into the myths and the stories of absolutely everything that we have ever learned. Uh, and it's a beautiful thing to have affluence of. But I also believe that it has been not disclosed to us on purpose, and that marketing executives have harnessed and manipulated the system uh, in such a way, like I said earlier, that it would serve them as a recruiting tool to glorify going to war. And that is where I see, as beautiful as it is, that this art is so correspondent to the heavens, there is a bit of a nefarious bend to it. And so my research has taken things to a really fascinating level recently on my channel. I've discovered that Star Wars was bringing to life the Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck in particular. And I'm not going to go into all the details of that. That is my next project and my next endeavor. But the way that he is using the Thoth deck is not the sky clock. It is not as simple as the 1, 2, 3s and the ABCs that we just went through. It is something much more complicated, much more advanced. And it has to do with this Enneagram personality matrix. And so I have essentially mapped out the Star Wars series here with the Thoth cards, starting with the Fool card in personality number 1, which is a perfectionist. I won't go into the whole run of it, but it does flow in the sequence of the cards from the Fool card to the Magi card to the High Priestess card to the Emperor Empress cards. And this is actually chronological to the arc of the original Star Wars from 1977. And it is blowing my mind that essentially these symbols, these particular cards, have been imbued into the collective consciousness for my entire lifetime. And I was born in 77. So it's hitting me in a major way that I have to look back to the year I was born to see how deep the programming has been all along. And when I fuse it into the Enneagram and this personality matrix, which can essentially elicit a positive or a negative response from a person, depending on their environment or the framing of their question or the way their options are laid out before them. It is the most advanced form of predictive programming I've ever imagined possible. And so what I believe I'm looking at with this deck, this is a different deck with different intention made from whole different artists, which I see as even an inversion. This is taking things to another level. This is like black belt level stuff. I think what I'm seeing is one ring to rule them all. And this deck in particular has been fused into our collective consciousness in an absolutely fascinating way. And so the phrase "one ring to rule them all" is an acronym. It's a ORTRTA. You rearrange those letters and you can spell tarot, TARROT. And so this is a grand thesis that I have. This is kind of my target going forward in my life and on my path. I'm gaining affluence every day by studying this Enneagram and realizing that it is ancient. It is ancient. And if you go by what they tell you on the surface, they'll try to convince you that the Enneagram became a personality matrix somewhere in the 70s or maybe in the 80s. But I have a sneaking suspicious sense that it goes back as far as Plato's Republic, and that it may be the how do I say this? Yeah, I think it is the original mind control program, and there's a lot behind those words, but I'll just say that. So before I walk away from what I just laid out in my wild off the wall claims, I want to clarify that I think that most tarot decks should be a one-to-one relationship between the person and the tarot deck. Yes, yes. And it is not the kind of system that was designed to be disseminated onto a large group of people. It is designed for only a one-to-one use. And so this is my attempt to exonerate people who are interested in tarot, who use tarot. I don't want them to be blamed like they're part of the military industrial complex, because people who use tarot use it the way it's meant to be used, a one-on-one relationship with the cards. But what Hollywood has been doing with the tarot cards is essentially a one read to rule them all kind of methodology to generate a collective that can be manipulated and programmed and swayed in their decision making. So I just wanted to wash the hands of all the tarot readers and everybody who's into astrology who uses it correctly, because I think that we are up against a very large machine that has been using it as a recruiting tool in a very nefarious light. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I do think that, you know, I hate to say this, but it's almost like, you know, if the witch trials kick off, they're going to come off and start pointing fingers at anybody who's got a tarot deck in their house, you know, and that's not what's up. It is the military-industrial complex that has been abusing the systems. So this graphic here relates to something that Esoteric and I were talking about earlier this week, where essentially the constellations have four royal constellations. We have Taurus and Libra, or excuse me, Taurus and Leo, Scorpio and Aquarius. Those are like the four corners of the tarot cards. You'll see them literally in the corners of the Wheel of Fortune card and the Universe or the World card, and the World card. Those are called the tetramorph. They are where the four royal stars live. Well, something really fascinating has happened. As of 2012, the zodiac stations, or the territories of each uh, uh, archetype, has shifted ever so slightly in such a manner that the four royal stars are now in mutable positions. And in 2012 is when the Virgo territory had just encroached ever so slightly over the heart of the lion. And it has taken over the position of Regulus, the last of the four royal stars, to roll out of their fixed positions. And so as of 2012, we are in four-way mutable positions, which is super profound to me. I think that it relates very powerfully to the Smith Modernization Act, and the fact that they no longer have to tell the truth. There are no more checks and balances on the propaganda of the war machine, and they have turned the propaganda in on their own country, and they've incentivized lying to the masses. And so I'm not telling anybody anything they haven't already sensed, but I want to give context to it, that it has very good reason that I believe there are astronomer priests who still adhere to the fourth aspect of the quadrivium, which is astrology. A lot of people have forgotten that astrology is the fourth and probably the most important aspect of astrology. And so they are quite ahead of the game on this. And as of 2012, they have switched their programming such that they don't have to tell us the truth anymore. There's no more checks and balances. And part of the proof of that is that this war in Ukraine is threatening the bread basket of Europe. Well, the bread basket, anytime you hear bread basket, you should absolutely think of the harvest season of Virgo. And this war that's popping off over there is like some kind of a world war that is correspondent to the change of the age, where Virgo has encroached onto Leo, onto the royal star of Regulus. And with one last ingredient here, I believe the word Soviet, it actually means sovereign. And so something really profound about the collapsing of the royal stars and the sovereign houses going through this age change is going to be a very challenging adjustment period. And so this is me putting a claim on that the war generals of the military industrial complex, they are watching the stars very closely, and they are taking action and aligning themselves with the spirit of the new age. And this is why we're going through so much change all at once, that we feel like the Fool card. We feel like Captain America, where he breaks out of his old ways, where he was comfortable in his bed, and now he's in the middle of traffic and everything has changed. He's living in the future, and they got cyborgs doing battle. It's really profound. But at least we have, hopefully, we have a little more understanding of the fact that this is written in the heavens, and the people on high, they presume to be adhering to a very ethereal system. And if we get our symbolic literacy on, then we can, crack the matrix, break the code, get on board, and align our intentions with the new age that we're in.
Symbolism in films is something that I've been very interested in for many years, but what you show today is completely new to me. Never seen never seen it before, never heard of it before. The new project you're going to be working on, how long do you think you'll need on that?
Uh, at least, probably at least a month. I think I'm going to try to line up my intentions to be up and running with this spring equinox. I've been tilling the soil and planting the seeds and watering the seeds and singing songs to my little intentions, and I just can't wait to watch things grow from where I've put it. But yeah, I'm really excited about where I've taken things and what I've discovered. But I have quite a few books that I need to process so that I can feel like an actual authority on the topic at hand, because it really is, I think, the greatest spell ever that I've ever even imagined possible. And I would love to, bring it to light, because that's the way we're going to crack the spell.
Gabriel, thank you for joining us today on Esoteric Thoughts. When that project is done and complete, we'd love to welcome you back to discuss that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Esoteric. It's been a pleasure and a joy.